Let's go down to the Urban Homestead, Pasadena by the freeway. Right down there on the Urban Homestead, Jules and his family are working away. Come on down to the farm in the city, back to the future, back to the plan. Right down there on the Urban Homestead, loving the life back into the land. Oh, 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 help the garden grow. Singing, oh, 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 we've got to help the garden grow.
Welcome to the Urban Homestead Radio. We are your hosts, Anais,
Justin,
Jordanne.
So when we finally got around to it, we roofed the house. We did it ourselves. So we were up there. Jordy was up there on the ladder with the hammer and the thing, and we took off the old roof and the tarp. Yeah. So and then somebody came in and put the metal roof on it, but we put 50 sheets of plywood up there with the hammer and the thing and put it up.
There's a photograph of Justin completely black because they put layer of asphalt sheet.
The original wood cedar shake. The original cedar shake was on the house. But
they just kept layering asphalt.
And then so the shake leaked, so somebody decided to put asphalt shingle.
It was like
that leaked, so they put another row of shingles on top. And then they decided to put another row of shingles. So the roof started sagging. So they started sagging on this side. There was 3 layers of asphalt shingles and the original
Justin
wood
took
shake.
it off by hand, and he would just come down like.
And so he started at the top, and then he just knocked everything down, and it just was like.
What's the pitch of the roof?
It was an 812. It was an 812, so
yeah,
it was.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Being up there, you're kind of bracing yourself. You're like hanging off things. But we did it. That's Dad, me, and Justin mostly.
So we did that. I got up there and took it all down. And then we had about 50 sheets of plywood.
Hauled those up.
Hauled those sheets of plywood up, put them in. And then somebody came in and did the metal roofing, but
because there's a special bending machine.
It was a project, So we tried to knock off a project here. We did gray water, we did biodiesel, we did solar, and it's easily to get overwhelmed because it's like, hey, how's that? Oh, 1 year was a cob oven, 1 year was things. 1 year was hootenanny.
Well, to riff off of what Justin said about doing the work yourself, a couple years ago, Dad won an award from the city of Pasadena for restoring an old home, historic preservation of a house in Pasadena. Somebody nominated him, we won, and Dad's just like, okay, all right. So he goes get the award, right? And we're sitting there, 1 of 4, because there was all these other people in different categories. So Anais, myself, and Dad were sitting in the audience and watching all these presentations. So guy goes up and with this fancy house, and they did a great job, green, and we imported the tile from this, and Ethiopia sand and all that, and here's my contractor, here's my thing, and there was this team architects, and they all go up there and they receive the award. So Dad gets up there, he's like, we did it ourselves, and he gets me and he's up there and goes, this is my team, architect, construction worker, and everybody just looking at, Justin wasn't there at the time, but he's like, my son, and my 2 daughters, they did all it, we did all it.
Dad was originally, he thought it was just, get up and do the work,
but they had to give all to all the architects and stuff.
Your team of people that
you had to give
you
credit to all the team of people, and Dad's
to restore
my son,
thing.
My
and
daughter.
And then what was the joke? It says it has the original wiring. Electrical wiring from 19 whatever. Or plumbing or what was it? I don't know. It was some sort of electrical.
Yeah, but see, people they don't realize they want to buy, and we notice that when people come in, they want to buy it. They're like, how do I get this? Where do I sign? How do I buy it? And we're just like, I don't think you can. You can't buy it. You cannot buy it. And a lot of people, there is some, based off of our success, some businesses would pop up. Well, come pay me and I'll make you an urban homestead, but you have to know the lay of your land. You have to know the sun. You have to know the soil. You can't just buy it and plop it on without actually studying it. So we We study this place for 30 years. We know the corners. We know where it doesn't drain. We know where it's drier. That's why it's because we know it. We have our hands there. We've done it. We didn't pay a team to come in and just say, let's see, where does a peach tree? Okay, here. It doesn't grow there. We know where it grows. We know the cold patches.
We've had to redo and redo.
Well, because it gets cold in certain areas of the yard. Like, rest of it doesn't freeze. It freezes there. It's like, okay, don't put that there anymore.
Well, what's an annual, every 2-3 years, a ritual of just re-landscaping the front? Just
something that didn't work. Something that worked too well.
Yeah, now it's too big.
Actually, something that could work too well, that would take over. So we have to take that out. It's like, oh, no, you don't take things out because it failed. You take things out because it grew too big. And it would take over the whole yard if you let it grow.
Yeah, and unfortunately with such a small plot, you have to maintain it meticulously because things can get out of hand. So where if you had, an acre, you could just have your garden, draw out the middle and say, okay, we're going to put the garden right in the middle and no trees and no neighbors' trees and no shadows from the neighbor's yard and things like that. So it's a little bit easier. And here it's like, oh, yeah, that's not, I forgot about that. Or
you get to, the sun angles when the sun changes, the solstice comes in.
Everything changes.
Just like, oh, it's not the same place.
And the school put the trees in, and now they're 10, 12 years worth of tree growth.
We had to rechange our landscape.
It had to rechange our landscape because of their tree growth. See, so.
Yeah.
But we're always changing, we're always adjusting, and like Justin said, we notice changes in the environment that most people won't know. He knows, like, maybe the sun's just different, or it seems hotter,
or bugs are out earlier.
Yeah, Justin would say. Justin was like, "Hey, something's strange."
We knew things were when the climate change or things. We said it used to be pretty reliable. Nature is always unpredictable, but it used to be, June bugs would come out in June. June bugs would come out in June. We have June gloom in June. We have May gray. We have shout rain in the winter. And then things started changing, where we couldn't get things growing when they were supposed to be growing. And then we knew something was up. It didn't make any sense. Like, something was off. And that's
it shouldn't be that hard to grow a tomato.
Things feel, the air sometimes feels different, and it's just...
And we've talked to other people that have been growing tomatoes
50 years.
They're 80 years old and growing tomatoes. They just stopped. It was too hard. Something changed. It was really like in the past. You say, is it easier? There's easier now than it was before. Some ways yes, some ways no. The environment has changed. The pests have changed. The climate has changed. And like I said, it's been at least 5 or 6 years we've had a decent rainfall, and this year finally got us back to where, hey, there's some normalcy in the rainfall. Because it was just, you could water all day and all night. It wouldn't make that much difference as one rainfall. Boom, everything grows overnight. And when it started changing, we're like, what's going on? Why can't we get tomatoes? We usually get tomatoes. And we talked to other farmers, and it was like, what's going on? It's got a crop failure. Something's wrong. And then they started thinking, oh, climate change, or things are happening. And it was
global weirding, they call it.
No, but there's sometimes there's like, no matter what you did, like 1 year, eggplant refused to grow. Didn't matter. We grow eggplant just great. 1 year, eggplant did not grow.
Yeah, because in the past 2 years, you got eggplant taller than you.
It was 1 year we had
9-foot eggplants.
Grow zucchini. I mean, this was 1 year.
Zucchini could not grow. It was like, and we were like, hey, is anybody? They're like, yeah,
it was almost embarrassing until somebody came to the farm stand and said, I'm having issues with my zucchini. It's like, you too? It's like, hey, good. Didn't make you feel so weird. Because like
zucchini is a weed.
You should be able to grow zucchini. That's and it was just getting harder and harder. And then we've had imported pests that we never had before.
We lost 3 big grapes. I think 2 big grapes last year.
We have diseases, Pierce disease. We've had
Bagrata bug.
Which
Justin wants to die a fiery death.
The stuff we when we started. There's new bugs that we've never dealt with before that can't be killed organically. So we don't spray anything. We don't spray organically. As like a last resort. We have spider mites that are brutal. We lost a couple years worth of tomatoes. They're just brutal.
Yeah, Dad, at some point you just call it a loss and you just kill the plant. And so Justin used to grow these brassicas.
You could grow kale year round.
Except they imported this, is it Sudan?
It's African.
It's an African bug called bagrata bug. And it generally sucks the life out of any brassica.
We call it the vampire bug.
And so Justin, at some point, in June, he just kills all the brassica. He's just like, that's it, I'm not going to grow. And he doesn't even try.
Because you would harbor, if you tried, you would harbor this bug. Habitat.
Yeah, so he just kills all the brassicas in June, no matter we used to grow them year round.
We used to be able to grow kale, mustards, and arugula year round. Mm-hmm. And
he just doesn't even try.
6 years, nothing organically kills it.
Actually, they can only burn, and big farms, they burn them.
Chemical stuff get it. Chemical, they vacuum it, or they
flamethrower.
Flamethrower is not a bad idea, but
Justin, he's like,
because our livelihood was salad mix, and the salad mix we originally grew year round. So when it came around, it's like, what are these bugs coming in from? And we basically have to be out of the salad business for about 2 or 3 months out of the year.
You just give up.
It's not
worth it.
Organically, naturally, there's nothing you can do.
I mean, literally, the bed looks beautiful
and then it's dead.
And then overnight. 1 or 2 days, or I don't even know, overnight, you can look at it and look like somebody burnt all the edges.
It's a vampire bug. It sucks.
It just sucks the juice out of it.
And they're little tiny little things.
The babies are really bad. But so we just stopped.
Adapt.
We just stopped. Adapt or die. We stopped growing brassicas for about 2 or 3 months out of the year. Lettuce is fine, but the brassicas, all the mustards and all that stuff.
And Dad learned that a long time ago. He would try to do things. He would try to get things, and he would try to get things to work at times that he thought he could. And then at some point, he says, "Let nature be nature," and you just go with it. You just adjust. And unfortunately, we're adjusting with imported bugs, which we shouldn't be in this area, but we are.
Yeah, I mean, they have imported Argentine ants that change the climate.
Sharpshooters,
grata bugs.
The greening disease that's in citrus.
One of the stories goes about blueberries was, everybody likes berries, so we said, well, grow blueberries. So we had one side of the yard in front, bought a bunch of blueberries, grew them on this side of the yard. No matter what we did, they'd turn yellow and whatever. So they didn't grow. So I said, how about this side? So they grew great on about 6 feet over the other side. They grew great for things. So we got it until the drought hit us. Then all the blueberries
lost.
So it just wasn't profitable to even continue watering.
But it was great. They grew very, very well. We'd have tons of
you just moved from one side of the yard to the other side of the yard. It worked, and then it didn't. So with the drought, I lost a couple $100 with the blueberries. It just wasn't profitable. It just you watered all day and all night. Just too hot, too dry.
So we let a lot of parts of the garden, especially in the front yard, because that was edible landscaping. We let them just fallow out because it wasn't worth it. We concentrated on the raised beds,
laid low until things settled out.
So,
but we had a lot of volunteers that come back every year. So the rain would bring them up, and then they would grow, and then they would die. And they said, "How do you do that?" Well, it just came up. I said, "How do you plant that?" It just grew there. They can point out walk you through the whole yard and say what we actually planted and what's growing by itself.
Dad says, if it grew there, let it grow. Mm-hmm. That's what he'd say.
This year with the rain brings back a lot of stuff that hasn't grown a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So it's very nice to see that. But it's been years since we were able to.
And that intense green, that spring green, we haven't seen that in a long time.
Everything just felt so dried out. Mm-hmm. But as I mentioned, we used to give tours, and Dad, he would joke because he had it beautifully landscaped, but because, to just riff off what Justin said, he would always move things until he found the perfect place. So one of Dad's tricks was to bury the plant with its pot in the ground. He would never actually plant the plant until he's happy that it was going to grow there. So he'd take the pot, dig it, put it in the ground,
see how it goes.
March over it and see how it goes. And he'd watch it.
Like a 5-gallon pot, not like a 1-gallon pot.
Yeah, a 5-gallon pot. He'd watch it and say, is that going to work there? And then it was like, if he sees it not working there, he'd dig it up, move it. So he that's how he experimented. He'd sink a pot in the ground and watch it for maybe half a year. And he called it like his little movable landscape. He'd move until he found that's going to work there, and then he'd plant it in there. Permanently. So a lot of people, they would tour, and some of the stuff was just planted as he watched it. And that's going back to what people said about what I said about people trying to buy the landscaping. Dad spent a lot of time observing and just seeing and watching and watching, and a lot of people don't want to spend that time.
Trial and error.
Yeah, he would say trial and error. He would say, I'm not going to throw in the trowel.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm not going to throw in the trowel. I'm going to keep going on it.
Play on words. And
he loved the trowel.
Yeah. And like you said in the film Homegrown Revolution, he planted every square inch. Our driveway. He would joke when people were here. He said, "Oh, yeah, if you stay long." I think he said that at the hoot a couple times too.
We'll trellis on you.
We'll plant something on you and use you as trellis, because
he loved trellising. He was always going vertical because he couldn't have much trees.
Layers and just something that he wanted to use all space. So vertical space and the middle space and then somewhat middle space and ground level and then low growing. So it's just like using the space like that. He liked that. When it worked, it was nice.
Well, this hootenanny space was cleared out very reluctantly. There was plants all around, but then as the more people came, he started pushing the plants to the side, and then it kind of started getting more to the edges. But there was plants. Like you couldn't even walk around here.
Yeah, we had here.
Yeah,
no, we had
to cut.
Over. We had to. The kitchen bed's kind of swung.
Yeah, this bed swung out here, but as the people kept tripping over it, and the people started coming, he was like, "Okay, I guess I gotta make it square."
Yeah.
And I gotta put the plants to the side. And
the
hootenanny changed the layout of the yard a little bit.
The same thing happened, they said, organically with the hootenanny. It started in the front yard.
Yeah.
So how do you plan this? It just happened.
It just grows.
Literally,
it's organic.
It wasn't planned, wasn't scripted, it wasn't a thing. And 4 years later, what you saw at the hootenanny is not how it started 4 years ago in the front yard, or 5 years ago in the front yard. It was a spin-off on what we did with the yard.
It's organic.
It happened. It was you go with it organically, and if it works, and it worked for 4 years.
Yeah, we say we're not. It's just the homestead is just, and this is not just about growing food. It's growing community too. So. The front porch farm stand was like our interface with the community. People could come in and you got to talk to the people that ate your food and or how to use this and things like that. And then people would come and then some never left. So
well, as Justin said, we sold to restaurants and caterers first, and then with the .com bust, we went from flowers to veggies. But we still sold to restaurants. But then with the market crashed in.
2008, 9.
Yeah, another downfall.
Yeah, there was another recession. So the restaurants, they look at the bottom line. They say, "You're the specialty produce. We want cheaper." And they cut us. So we were finding that we went direct to the consumer then, and that's when the farm stand opened, and we opened up to the people and said, "You want produce?" And so we adjusted even with the economic changes, because we just went directly to the restaurants, and then with I think it was 2006 or something. Yeah. There was some sort of market shift.
They were cutting costs.
Yeah.
And since ours was so expensive, they
cut us, and then we went to the direct.
You just have to have a lot of
flexibility.
You have to have a lot of options. You can't be just putting, like they say, all your eggs in one basket. Especially with homesteading, if you relied on for your income. So you have to have backup because it could be a bad year. So if it is a bad year, what's your fallback plan? What's plan B? What's something that can give you income even though, maybe that crop doesn't grow. So it's secondary, it's skills, it's doing without, making do. Yeah, and it's just going with everything and just learning to adapt and figuring out and we're learning as we go. I mean, literally, it's like a circus sometimes. You feel like you're in a circus. There's like rings and shows and you're juggling. And, you feel like,
and then people come and say, "What do you do?"
Well, yeah, what do you do all
and
day?
I sat there and looked at him and go, where do I begin?
Yeah, so you wear, as homesteaders, you wear many hats. You wake up, you're caretaker of the animals. Then you could be a vet. Then you're a gardener. Then you're a canner. Then you're market manager or handyman and
social media, answering phones, secretary,
accountant, yeah,
customer service.
Somebody calls up, Jordanne, my
customer
chicken.
Service.
Mm-hmm. So many hats. And
someone people, what do you do in the homestead? I just kind of look at, I don't know, where can I start? What did I do today?
Oh, you're a cook, you're a baker, possibly even a candlestick maker sometimes. So. Yeah, so.
It's funny looking back.
It's a circus out there.
It's funny looking back. We had some rough times though.
Yeah. No, as I said, it's rough. Yeah. It's not
for the faint of heart.
No, and like I said,
And then other people were saying, why does your place look so good? That's like, he's not stupid. He doesn't take a picture of the stuff that doesn't work. I mean, it's just.
We thought about having it on the blog. We thought about having
why does everything look so good?
The good, bad, the ugly.
Well, yeah. We don't take a picture of the stuff that doesn't work. I mean, it's not that stupid, but to take a picture of things. So then when people are like, why does your place look so good all the time? Well, we just don't take the pictures of the bad stuff.
We thought about just the good, bad, and the ugly side.
Yeah, just post what happens in real life. I mean, just no Photoshop, nothing.
We really don't.
We don't know Photoshop. What I'm saying is like,
all straight out of camera.
Pictures lie though.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take pictures a certain way and it looks different. So, and then people are shocked at how small it is. Because pictures if you take a wide angle length, it changes the whole perspective. Then when Google Maps came in and the satellite thing, you can actually see how small the place is.
You could probably. I think there's you in the yard or somebody.
We've had people show up here, like media or something. They have like big boots on.
They think they're going to
like bug spray and hat on. And they'll come in and they come and they're like ready to check the back 40 and they walk back and they're just like,
"This is it."
It's like, yeah,
that's
sorry.
And they actually would walk out measure the front yard, like we said, it's 66 feet or 132. And you don't know what it is. That's just a number. So once they see it, it's like, wow, that's small. And then with Google Maps, people all over the world, you just pull us up on the back. You can see the whole thing. How tiny we are in the grand scheme of things, the freeway, the school. You pull it up like that. It's amazing every time I look at it. It's like,
that's our place.
Yeah, because you're so locked in, on one dimension. So we do the Google Maps, and you could see the whole layout, and it's just like it doesn't lie. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, you could take pictures, but you see the whole layout. And people were actually studying it, and we posted something online, and then somebody would measure the picture online. We had one guy who met out in Corona and met Dad at a Smith & Hawkins thing. He would literally every picture we put online,
take an equivalency in the photo.
So there would be like a 5-gallon bucket or a thing he knew the measurement of a chair.
And then he would do in the photograph.
And he'd measure that, and then
the layout of the beds.
Then measure the bed and says your beds are 3 by 6
so then
or
he'd
4
make
by
3
8.
by some beds.
And then he showed
the
he gave us a picture of his yard and I looked at it and I went,
looks like our yard.
Wait, is this ours? He
actually copied it from pictures online.
The layout. I remember looking at it and I just sat there for a minute.
That looks like our yard. Like,
wait, no, it's not really. But what?
He literally he measured the pictures and did things, and his backyard was just. He had to do a double take. That's how close he copied. I mean, he was like.
He copied the measurements from the photos.
And then, like I said, living here, you get. You don't sometimes appreciate, like people say, you don't appreciate where you are, and you don't sense what other people are sensing or feeling, what other people are feeling. So, feedback we've gotten from this place is we had a gentleman who couldn't see, and
he was sight impaired.
He was sight impaired, and he said he literally, from just walking just to the neighbors, and
he was driving with a friend,
or he said,
it's right here.
He could smell. And I always thought, I said, that'd be kind of cool, especially with like JPL and Caltech. I said, I wonder if they would do like a measurement, like what it measures at the homestead air quality, and then, walk just a couple feet in the street and measure it. And I just would like to, just for curiosity's sake, because people always say, oh, your place smells better, the air's cleaner here. Of course it's the plants, duh. But I'm just like scientific evidence. Yes, we are, our property is, 40% cleaner than the air out in Orange Grove, or, just like have a thing. I thought that would be kind of cool.
After about 4 or 5 people tell you that.
Yeah, really?
You start looking at you say, okay, one guy.
Yeah, no, like lots
he's making
of people,
it up or whatever. And then he said, somebody else said it.
Yeah, many
and
people have said it.
I think he said, some people said it smells different. He said it smells like home or something. I think it was some article.
A lot of comments.
Yeah, a lot of comments like, oh, this place smells different or feels different. There's things you're like, when you grow up here, it's kind of hard. We know when you leave, but when you come, for new people, it's
speaking of copters, we always found it humorous. Every once in a while, they would go over our house, and then you kind of see them. They'll go on the house, then they kind of like mid-air break. And they come around, and they just kind of circle around. You can see them checking it out, and they're like, cool. And then they go fun. And it happened several times. So these copters, they're just kind of and then they're like,
what's down there?
Like, that was the one. They said I was out watering it. Dad was in the backyard.
And he just like rose.
They just basically buzzed the place.
He buzzed the place. He's like looking at us, and Dad
he was going. I don't know if it was
he was going, and he's just like,
whatever. It just you're sitting. We're upset watering. Your dad was in the back, and Dad was like,
yeah, Dad went like this to him, and the guy was like that, and he was just checking out. He's looking at the yard.
Shot. All the yards look the same.
Yeah, they're going along.
Like a break, like
mid-air break, and he banked it. And I remember going, and Dad, I remember him looking,
the wind was
like
picking
this.
up, and I was like, what's going on? Because usually the helicopters mean police activity, you know. That's the neighborhood.
He was just checking it out.
And he just stopped, and Dad was like, and I was out front, like, what's that guy want? And then the way
Dad was like, he just looked at the place. And it's happened. I've noticed it several times. And there was one time, one of them kind of rose over the freeway and kind of hovered right there. Dad's just looking at it. He was like, are we getting raided? You know, he just like, and the guy went like that and just kept going.
I think the joke was they turned left at the blue truck.
Yeah.
The roof.
Or the ones with all the plants in the backyard.
Because even on Google Maps, you'd see the blue tarp.
Yeah.
It was easy. You put for the whole yard, and there it is. Big old
Not
blue
anymore.
tarp.
They've updated it.
Yeah, so every couple of years they would update it. But when they pulled up the first Google map, you could see the date of it because it had the blue tarp on the whole.
We were also one of the few early adopters in Pasadena solar panels. So there's the shiny solar panels, and then all this, and
then the blue tarp.
So it kind of attracted attention from copters. It was pretty funny. I remember that quite often.
It's weird.
I remember there was one time because we do biodiesel, and everybody's like, one time there was like the cops came to the door, and Justin's like, okay, and he's like, yeah, you guys do the biodiesel in the backyard? Justin's like,
yeah.
Yes. He's like, can we see? And Justin's like, oh, they're gonna think it's something bad.
Meth lab.
A meth lab. So he let him in the back, and they thought it was so cool. We're just like, yeah, they probably don't think this is biodiesel. They thought it was so cool.
I blocked that one out.
It was fun.
You did. You were just kind of. I saw you petrified. Like, do I show them?
Fire department or something?
No,
it was a policeman. They're like, hey, you guys.
They read us. They saw us on CNN or whatever.
They read us on the paper, and they stopped these two.
KCAL 9.
Okay, KCAL 9.
Yeah, this cop.
Check it out. So
they wanted to come and Justin let them in the backyard and showed them this biodiesel reactor, which is like tubes and aluminum
foil
and Justin's sitting there going, I think they're just checking it out to see. But they were honestly generally interested. They thought it was the coolest thing, but you could just see Justin's face like, how am I going to explain this?
Methanol.
Methanol. Not meth.
Methanol.
I think they make meth out of methanol.
Yeah, I know.
That didn't go really well.
I remember your face. It was pretty funny. You were just like, sure. The policeman.
Yeah. Well, it is, yeah.
And then, because then we have the biodiesel cars, and we'd ride around. And after it's been on the media, Dad would be driving, and then people stop too. Hey, man! Rock on! Dad like, keep going. They would yell at him at the streets.
Yeah,
because he was riding this big
black...
It's a small
town. Pasadena is a small town.
Suburban.
Yeah.
And people know who you are, so...
Well, I think we got I'm not say got away with it, but there was a lot of Pasadena helped us out a lot.
No, Pasadena was, and people say how. Another thing, like glad Justin brought that up. People say how do you do this? My city, my city. This is not. Pasadena is been amazing. Just they're on the forefront of the sustainable movement. They had like a 20 goal plan for making Pasadena more sustainable, more green. So we're just like cool because
we were the only home on the green building tour of 2007.
Only Pasadena. Yeah. So when we call them, hey, can we put a metal roof on our house? They're like, I guess so. Never, because code. They're like, bring in a sample. We just don't want it shiny, so to blind the neighbors. So we brought it in. They never saw like the roof that we had. That's metal, but it's in. So we were actually educating them. Yeah. And and they were learning from us, and then they drew. They were using it to help the city become more sustainable and more green. Yeah. So in a sense, I mean, it's been a blessing to just even live in Pasadena because it's just been an amazing city. And
we were there with
we got 2 awards from the city and the mayor. 2 awards from the city.
And
Mike and Mauricio, all the city. Oh, and Alice Sterling and Carol. Yeah, all and the mayors. Wow. So.
What did he say? Dad was his best advertiser.
Yeah, Dad was the best because like I said,
all the rebates.
Tried all the rebates, put in the solar panels, got everything. Program. Yeah, we would go to every Earth Day that Pasadena had. Yeah. So, and it was, like I said, great to even like live in a city that appreciated what you're doing. It wasn't fighting against, and that was pretty.
They really
pretty
appreciated
nice.
Dad pushing them the envelope because they didn't know quite how to deal with the
residential aspect.
So Dad would often have us call and say, "Hey, do you guys, offer this and this?" And they're like, "No."
What about gray water?
What about gray water? What's your policy for gray water? And they're like, "We don't have a policy. We should talk about that." And so they liked, because Dad was like trying to push. He wanted to make this sustainable,
and he didn't want to go against code.
He wanted to work with the city.
He wanted not be like behind.
So I remember calling for gray water one time. We're like, "What's the policy?" And they're like, "We actually haven't written that. Do you want to come and talk about it?" And so, what do you know? And they thanked Dad for that, for actually pushing Pasadena into things they didn't think about, like even to the point of maybe even like adopting some sort of composting toilets. They they consider how to actually deal with residential green.
And it's also about perspective, because I think there's some proverb or something, you teach somebody you can feed a guy or teach him how to fish, kind of thing. And I think what Dad saw was the bigger picture, and it was sometimes we get locked into the day-to-day things, and and Dad was good at seeing a big picture. So if you say, "What are you doing?" maybe, "Well, I'm planting a garden," and what Dad would see it as, he was changing the world. It's your perspective on what you're doing. Anything. Any artist, anything you say, well, if you just say planting a seed, that is actually what you're doing. But it's your view or your perception or what you want to do with what you're planting a seed. So that was Dad's gift. And he thought he could change the world.
Yeah, so it's funny. He came out here to go to theology college to become a minister, and the ministry became Earth Care ministry, like being good stewards, tending to the garden.
Back to the garden?
Yeah, back to the garden. So, in a sense, the ministry was from the trowel and from the seeds and from the hard work, from your two hands and getting your daily bread.
Yeah. So it was, the original thing was out here to go to theology, get a degree and become a minister or something like that. Didn't work out, but he ended up
ministering another way.
The original thing was man in a garden and a woman in a garden, and so.
And with animals,
and animals,
and to be good stewards of creation.
And be decent people.
Yeah. Be a good neighbor. Be a good neighbor. Yeah, and speaking of good neighbors, another thing when Dad would give presentations, he'd give a PowerPoint presentation, and he would say, another thought that was in the back of his mind, because you can have a chicken coop and you can have a garden and you can have things, but we lived in the city. We had neighbors. We saw our neighbors, they saw us. And so one of the things that kept Dad focused on being a good citizen of Pasadena was, would I want to live next to me? Because people say, wow, I didn't think, you could have a garden in your front yard. Well, call it edible landscaping, make it beautiful. Nobody can object to that. But if you, do it not planning wise or whatever, and then your neighbors might not like it so much. So you have to have in the back of your mind, like, I am in the city, I do have neighbors, and would I want to live next to myself? So we made a conscious choice, like I said, to keep the animal, to keep everything clean and presentable and tidy, and that the
I think the joke is the Beverly Hills.
We're the Beverly Hillbillies?
No, the coop.
Oh, the coop. Oh, we are the Beverly Hillbillies. Oh, Jordy's Ellie Mae. Well,
the chicken.
You're strong, but
Granny.
I'm Granny in the kitchen, whipping
up.
But
the one, the front yard. The front yard was also landscape. It wasn't just edible landscaping. Edible plant. It was landscape. So Dad made sure it looked good, tasted good, but you can. Sometimes it did look bad, but we tried to make it.
Small was beautiful. Small was beautiful, and it was productive. So pretty and practical. We always say.
Yeah, but looking back, it's like he said, where he came from. It's just like how he got this far. It's just incredible. We'd be here for hours just talking about.
Well, we still don't believe it. I mean, not still believe it. Like, it just, or shocks or humbles, I don't know, is this word. It's like the massive outreach. When we went to India with our film Homegrown Revolution, people would come up, I read your blog. And we're just like, wow, really? Wow. It's like, really? And then they would tell us.
They had to tell the history of
History's film, but no, they would tell us, I read this, and I was like, wow, you guys know more about me than I do, because I would totally forget.
I totally forgot that happened.
I was like, really? They tell us a story.
One time
like,
we were in the city of Udaipur in India, and so the city of Udaipur, the community center, put on a presentation. The dad, the film, and Dad doing a presentation. So we're there, right? And I say, no, we're approached by this couple, American couple, and they were just like, we finally meet you here, and we're traveling through India. We're huge friends of yours.
Georgia.
They were like from Virginia. We met in Udaipur, and in India. And they were big followers of us. They had to travel all across the world. And we met in Udaipur. It was just so weird. They were just so excited to finally meet us. And we were in the middle of India.
Yeah, so speaking of the film, so what happened was Homegrown Revolution, how it started was Dad was asked by Peter Sellers of UCLA to... Michael Pollan was going to be guest speaking, and he wanted Dad to be a local representative of the sustainable food movement. So Dad was like, well, it's going to be at 6:30 at night, and a bunch of 400 college students are going to be probably bored out of their brains. So he turned to Jordanne and said, hey, whip me up a little video thing so I can show.
Like, I know these college kids, they need things that sing and dance.
Yeah, sing and dance. So he's like, so she made this thing 3 days. She put together, music in it.
Media
clips. News clips and kind of just a hodgepodge.
And music.
The kids loved it, and then we said, oh, we'll do it. Jordy's like, well, we'll put it on YouTube. So it was there for a couple months, and then we get a call or email from Patagonia's Wild and Scenic Film Festival up in Grass Valley, and they're like, we'd like to show your film. We're like, what film?
They're like, your film. I'm like, it's not a film.
It's like a short.
I think I argued with them on the phone. I'm like, you don't want it.
We really want it.
And then so I said, okay, it's got a lot of copyrighted material on it. So I try to beg out that way. I'm like, I don't. And they're like, well, can you reshoot it? I'm like, so we shot it and pretty much recreated it.
Yeah. And, so it brought people to their feet. To tears. I mean, literally, people would come up and they'd be crying.
And so that film went to, I would say, 60 film festivals, won over a dozen awards.
At least.
And the clip for Earth Day, Oprah's Earth Day 2009, I believe she showed a piece of that.
And it brought us to Greece, Israel, India, New Zealand, and Italy.
We could have gone more places.
Slovakia wanted us to come in, and Russia wanted to come in, and South Sea Wales wanted us to come in.
Go
South America too.
South America asked us to come in.
Yeah. So that's a thing. It was
the little film that could.
It happened organically too. Just like they said, well, we were filmmakers. No,
it was a homemade, homegrown film.
Some people go to school to become filmmakers. Dad just wanted to show a college class what we did and make it catchy, put some music to it, and
short
make sure they
stay
awake during the whole...
It was a night class.
It was a night class.
He's like, I'm going to keep them awake.
The reaction he got, because we were in the back row, it's just like, you think, because we knew we were different, we knew we were odd, and then it got a rousing response. It was like, wow, because you put promo for your commercial.
See, Dad was doing presentations. Yeah, it was an infomercial. Dad was doing presentations. You get a little tired of saying it over and over again. What you've done. And I turned over my lawn. Well, what? What did it look like? So he could do a PowerPoint, or we did a film.
And that story made it tell a story. And then I do remember the
reaction.
The reaction to the trial in the air. He shot it right here. He sat on the driveway. Jordy was here.
And I filmed him putting his
and you could see the telephone pole right there in the film. And I was like, what is he doing?
And I'm like filming, and he's like doing
He's got his trowel that he uses all the time. So Dad goes out. I said, "What are you doing?" So he did so many different. I don't know how many takes it was.
There's quite a few.
Quite a few takes. So he would put the trowel. If you'd watched the
Did you
film,
have to hit in the frame? Because I would hold the frame, and he'd have to hit it into the
so
frame.
So Jordy would sit there, and it was shot right there. You could see the telephone pole from the original clip, and it just like this simple thing, putting a fist in the trowel in the air, just got a rousing response. Some people were crying, some people were cheering. It was just like, here he was shot right there in several different takes. It was just like, first of all, I didn't know what Dad was doing, but Dad had an idea to things. So then the trowel went around, so then we had to play on words and put it on a t-shirt and do like that. And then we
Vectorize Dad's hand into a logo.
So it was just funny, because you say, well, never intended to be a filmmaker, never intended to do this or boot nannies or whatever, but it all happened organically. So it wasn't, we never intended to be filmmakers, but it happened organically. And Dad had a good eye for that.
That's pretty funny.
But
Jordy just got a text.
I know, I got a text from a friend asking a question.
Jordy's like, "Oh, I didn't know we were the Homestead Help Hotline."
Yeah, she had French. She goes, "What do I do with this?" And I wrote it back, and she goes, "Thanks. This is your yearly subscription for one-on-one Homestead Help Hotline." She says, "Great." I was just answering a friend's question right there. She was asking me what to do with biochar, stuff.
It was funny, but the filmmaking circuit, we didn't fit in either, because it's like,
we didn't film,
No, we didn't fit in because
because they were filmmakers. They
went to school. They got a degree.
I
mean, not went to school. I mean, they went to filmmaking school.
They were filmmakers. We was just farmers who went to film.
So it's funny because we didn't fit in there. It's like, oh, it took
They're
me
like,
5 years.
so what was your last film? Dad's like,
what's your next film?
What's your next film? Dad's like,
It's funny because he's sitting there like,
what's your
5 years and $100,000 it took me to make this film, like 5 minutes, 15 minutes.
Sitting there on a computer like, I don't know what I'm doing, but let me put this here. Oh, that worked. Woohoo! I think I had so many cuts and wipeout. I mean, that was pretty brutal to learn video editing on the fly.
It was funny because he said, what film?
Yeah, we were just saying.
What film?
And we just want to. I mean, like I said, this is
this is our
also
story.
Yeah, this is our story. It's dedicated to our Father who got us here. So this is a
Father's
podcast
Day.
and we're launching right before Father's Day. It was something he wanted to see. I know he talked about it many times to have an old time radio show with gardening and music and guests and stories and just what
bringing
people
a community together,
and just talking. That's where things happen around a table, food, fellowship, and what's food without fellowship, what's fellowship without music, what's anything. And so we want to bring what happens here in our backyard to a larger audience so that you can maybe kind of feel or hear what it sounds like
share
here
the
in our
stories.
Backyard, in our homestead sometimes.
Behind the scenes, share the stories.
Tips and tidbits. Disasters, the good, bad, ugly.
The joy, the sadness.
Sacrifice. And the challenging, and just know that, small steps do have a big impact, and we hope that we can still inspire you, and
we're still growing ourselves. I mean, we're still changing and growing. It's not like we're sitting here saying, "Oh, this is where you be."
We're evolving.
We're evolving, and so that's going to be probably documenting our journey as well as we move
because
forward.
I mean, with the same with pictures and same with film, there's an ending, but fortunately in life, sometimes part 2, 3, 4. And it should never end. So, this one's dedicated to Dad. It got us this far, and had this idea to do this a long time ago, some sort of podcast or radio show, and we hope that inspires other people, and hope that we can continue carrying on his work.
So we believe we're a product of our dad, and he always said that you have to evolve, you have to change, and you have to grow. And that's from our grandfather, who often said to us, if you cease to learn, you cease to exist. And Dad was very big about not remaining stagnant. and just sitting on what you've done. He was always pushing us to do more, grow more, to be better versions of what we've done.
Mm-hmm. And another one he always liked to quote was, too much is given, much is required.
So we were given a lot.
Mm-hmm. We try to share a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try to share a lot.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard because we do want, people come to us and emails and tour requests and stuff. So with this platform, we hope that, we help, help us help you and inspire you, so that we're sometimes
we do want to help. We just get overwhelmed.
We're only now 3, and so we can only do so much. So
this will help us to help you.
Let's go down to the Urban Homestead, Pasadena by the freeway. Right down there on the Urban Homestead, Jules and his family are working away. Come on down to the farm in the city, back to the future, back to the plan. Right down there on the Urban Homestead, loving the life back into the land. Oh, 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 help the garden grow, singing, oh, 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 we've got to help the garden grow.
The Urban Homestead theme song was written and recorded by Tom Fair. Thanks, Tom.
we've come to the end of this show.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Be sure to tune in again. Until next time,
this is Anais,
Justin,
Jordanne. Keep on growing.